What's going on, family? Welcome back to Israel's Movie Reviews. And we're going to be discussing a movie called Air. Yeah, Air. This movie was written, co-starring, produced, directed by Ben Affleck, partnering up with Matt Damon, Chris Tucker, Marlon Wayans, Viola Davis, and Julian Tannen were all in this movie representing a Jordan story, an original Jordan story, and how he originally got his first deal with Nike. And this movie, it's one of those movies where I give credit to the writers, I give credit to Ben Affleck. It's one of those movies where you'd even think of, who in their right mind will think about, oh, let's write about how this person got their first shoe deal and made it entertaining and very, very information driven, to the point where I think them as writers learned certain things that they wanted to share with the world. And I was very, very appreciative of that. So let's get straight into it, man. This, for the most part, was a nice surprise. I think that Ben Affleck bounces back as a director here. Even though I've seen a lot of his things, and I don't think his last movie was his best movie, but at the end of the day, Live by Night back in 2016 was actually an underrated movie for me at the time. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't as strong as his other movies. So this movie for me was, anytime he gets together with Matt Damon, it's always a delight in my eyes. But this was a nice surprise after that shaky Live by Night. You know what I mean? I think I was more affected by. I think that movie was more affected by the executive meddling more than anything else. I don't think it was his direction or the way he wrote or directed anything, because Ben Affleck is one hell of a director. That I give it to him. Ben Affleck took a break from directing ever since, and now, he has this mini comeback of sorts with this film, especially Air, and it's about that decade in the 80s since, watched his other films, Gone by, I believe, Gone Baby Gone, The Town, Argo. And I remember liking them quite a bit. And enough to say that Air feels like a return to form for Ben Affleck in many ways. Not only as an actor, but as a director. And starting off, man, this cast that he chose, the cast all give very, very, very strong performances, even though some cast members, are in small roles in the film. And between this and The Last Duel, I have to say that I think Ben Affleck's even better in supporting roles than what he is sometimes in the main role. And as a leading man, I think he can do an awesome job, as he does with Batman, The Town. But in this one, as kind of a side, he's kind of a supporting actor in this film. And I have to say that I think Ben Affleck's even better in these roles. It moves well and kept me interested for nearly the 2-hour runtime. Even though the story on paper wasn't one that I thought that I would find interesting, because, in this era, you think or knew everything it was about Jordan. But this movie really puts a lot of other things to it, and that's a sign of not only a good movie, but a good director, a good storyteller, a good writer, a good producer, a great cinematographer. And I believe that this was a really, really solid, entertaining film. This is an extremely engaging and entertaining homage, I think, to how not only Jordan, but his family, especially his mom, played by Viola Davis, manages to kind of like undermine the suspense out of a story you already knew the ending. You already knew the sneaker came out and how it looked. And that Nike at the time was the third place loser in basketball shoe market. Adidas and Converse ruled everything. And they managed to get Michael Jordan to sign with them due to his mother, and created the Air Jordan shoe. To a large degree, the film is also about how Sonny Vaccaro, who's played by Matt Damon, pulled off this feat of making Jordan this brand. And it also makes you doubt if it's ever going to happen, even though right, that obviously it happened years ago, 38 years ago. But that's good storytelling, when they kind of like, here's the fish, keep, and it's also a pretty funny film. They have a lot of comedians in this film. Marlon Wayans, Chris Tucker, but the one that I didn't expect mostly to do anything in this film, believe it or not, and I'm a huge fan of him, was Jason Bateman, who I'm a huge fan of. I think he did a great job. Chris Tucker uh, did amazing here, and bravely, I think, self-deprecating Ben Affleck, though, Dave Messina steals many scenes as Jordan's agent in this film. I think Ben Affleck did what he had to do regarding this film. It also puts this well put together, then they just, the way they tied up everything in this movie really surprised me in good ways. You know what I mean? You forget that Nike was an underdog, that they weren't the number one market at that time. And this film really talks about its multi-million-dollar company, which is huge now, and making it to be that Jordan basically put him over the top. You know, they literally put him over the top, and it was a nice trick to the film. My only real complaint is that they dedicate too much time to 1984, which we all know. 1984 was a great year, and I was just happy that I managed to watch this at an early screening, and I was pleasantly surprised. You know what I mean? I think Ben Affleck overall wins he wins another one. You know what I mean? This movie was, I think, supremely written. This film deserves, I think, Oscar-worthy attention. And thank God for a man, on the verge of, his career ending, and then him taking a chance on now the synonymous Nike, and to put all your rocks in one basket for one man that's unproven on the basketball court. That takes not only balls, but it takes some cojones, man. And shout out to Jordan's mom, who had the foresight to say, you know what, not only are we going to sell this shoe, but my son is going to earn every percentage for every shoe he sells. And the guys today should really pay homage to her and thank her, because without her, who knows? So this movie, easily Viola Davis and Julia Tannen, who are a real-life husband and wife, also turning good performances as Michael Jordan's devoted parents. There are also solid turns from Chris Tucker, who looks heavier in this film than he usually does. But I don't know if that was for the role. That's just him in general. And shout out to Jason Bateman. This is a subject matter that I enjoyed to the fullest. The soundtrack of this, so many 80s songs that sparked my youth. Although it has a lot of swearing, and not a lot of people will appropriate that with a movie kind of like this. But if you know anything about Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, their movies swear a lot. So Ben Affleck, kudos to him for directing and co-starring this as well. Alex Convery wrote it with this glorious talent of his. For someone that doesn't really keep up with much sports, this was enthralling. Well, obviously now I keep up with, I've always been a sport guy, but for the most part, I haven't been following like I used to. And the comedy was better than expected, especially with everything that Chris Messina and Matt Damon were doing regarding their bantering throughout the film. I wasn't sure why Michael Jordan barely had lines at all. Though the movie, I appreciated, it wasn't really about Michael Jordan, and more so about the shoe and the aura of Michael Jordan. So I recommend this movie. I think this movie was an 8 out of 10 easily. You should definitely go out and see it if you're a Jordan fan, if you're a Matt Damon, Ben Affleck fan. And if you just want to know more about how that shoe came to fruition, this is the movie for you. So go check it out. If you like this review, hit that notification bell, hit that like button. Till the next one. Deuces.